concerns the identity of the Israelite tribe of Zebulun. The Israelite tribe of Zebulun was symbolized by a ship. The ship is also a traditional symbol of the Netherlands. We identify the Netherlands with Zebulun. My name is Yair Davidiy. I'm speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of Brit-Am Hebrew Nations, an organisation that finds the lost 10 tribes amongst Western nations, amongst Western peoples. We have researched this subject, we have proven it, and we occupy ourselves with it. That is what we do. We research and we reveal the results of our research, and we work towards reconciliation between Judah and the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Originally the 12 tribes of Israel. 10 of these tribes were exiled and lost the consciousness of their ancestry. They migrated to the west. They remained together. They retained something of their original tribal cohesion, and they remained together and more or less also retained something of their original tribal groupings, or they re-assimilated, recoalesced, as if to say elements from the same tribes had a tendency to rejoin together in their places of encampment when they reached the western areas. And we have found amongst Western peoples whom we identify as being basically of Israelite ancestry, we have found enough evidence to identify each and every area with a specific Israelite tribe. Concerning the Netherlands, we have identified the Netherlands with the tribe of Zebulun, with the Israelite tribe of Zebulun. And this is what we have done, and this is what we are speaking about at present. We have recently put out a few other clips on this subject. We've also written articles upon it. I wrote an article concerning this matter, so too did Bert Otten. Bert Otten wrote an article, Zebulun Holland, a study of 10 prophetic clues. Both of us showed that the Netherlands was dominated by people who may be identified with Zebulun, and together we have quite a reasonable body of conclusive evidence on the subject. And we shall briefly discuss these matters, give you an overline of both of our articles and the main points in the articles. And those of you who are interested in more details should go to the original articles and see them on our websites. Now we, in our article, in the article that I wrote, concerning the identification of the Netherlands with Zebulun, we identified Zebulun as being amongst the Dutch people due to the following points. One of them was that the symbol of Zebulun was a ship. The ship was also the symbol, or the traditional symbol, of the Dutch people. It was also prophesied that Zebulun should dwell on the shores of the sea. In Genesis 49 it says, 13, verse 13, Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea, he shall be a haven for ships, and his water shall be at Sidon. Where it is translated that Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea, the Hebrew says B'hof Yamim, literally on the shores of the sea. And that is what the Dutch people do. 2/3 of the population of the Netherlands, in effect, dwell in areas that have either been reclaimed from regions that were below the sea level, under the sea in effect, or they were subject to periodic inundation and flooding by the sea. So literally speaking, the Dutch people really are living on the shores of the sea, and they're the only people in the world who do this. And another point is that the book of Abijah in the Bible, the book of Abijah in the Bible, says that the 10 tribes, at least according to rabbinical commentators, rabbinical explanations of the Hebrew original, which speaks of the first exile being, according to them, that of the 10 tribes, would be in Zarephath. Zarephath meaning the area of what is now France, but also encompassing Holland and the region around it, so that the Bible was predicting the lost tribes would be in that region. That's where we find the Dutch people. We also find in this region a nation people, according to the map of Ptolemy, known as the Zebulun Goy, and the Zebulun Goy in Hebrew means people of Zebulun. Goy means people. Zebulun is another way of saying Zebulon. So in other words, the people of Zebulun were marked by an ancient geographer who was not Christian, who was not Jewish, and he was just transmitting the geographical information that he had. And he mentioned the people of that name, called the people of Zebulun in the Netherlands area. And later to find the people dwelling on the shores of the sea, and the people who would also be known as the people of Zebulun. We also have Frisian legends, Dutch legends, indicating that they, as well as the Angles and the Saxons, who later migrated to England, conquered England, were descended from the lost tribes of Israel. The sons of Zebulun, the clans of Zebulun that made up the tribe of Zebulun, were known as Yachtviel, Sirud and Elon. These are also names of peoples who settled in the area, such as the Hali, the Suwa-Danoi, and the people who got their name to Holland, Elon. Another point we said was that the stone of Zebulun was a diamond in the breastplate of the priest. Each of the tribes had its own specific stone, and the stone of Zebulun was a diamond, and diamonds have been associated with the history of Holland. Descendants of the Dutch amongst the Boers in South Africa is where most of the diamonds in the world are produced. Most diamonds in the world were processed and sold through Amsterdam, and after that through Antwerp, which, even though it is in Belgium, it's an area of people who are speaking the Dutch type language, Dutch dialect. So those are the points that I brought in my article. Also Bert Otten, who also wrote an article on the subject. It's called Zebulun Holland by Bert Otten, a study of 10 prophetic clues. And in this article, Bert Otten also gives points by which he identifies the people of Holland, the people of the Netherlands, with the tribe of Zebulun. So one of the points he gives is that the name Zebulun connotes dwelling. And dwelling reflects the characteristic of the Dutch people, and this is a characteristic of the Dutch. They like homeliness, coziness, intimate dwelling, and this is an aspect of Dutch culture. And the name Zebulun does reflect this. The name Zebulun means home, or dwelling, or strength of dwelling, and so this ties in with this characteristic of the Dutch people. It also says that Zebulun was to dwell on the seashores, and also ships anchoring its coast in Genesis 49:13. This too describes the Netherlands. As he says that before the great land reclamations, half the country was close to the sea, it was literally on the borders of the sea, and later on they reclaimed the lands from the sea and pushed the sea back, and then began to dwell in the land that they had recovered from the sea. And also there are a large number of place names, Ansea, Onsea, or Sand, or Dunham, and so on. And this is the only place in the world where this phenomenon exists. Half the country is built on reclaimed land. If there were no dunes and no dikes, no protective works, half the country would be submerged by the sea. So Zebulun is on the shore of the sea, as the prophecy said. It also says that Zebulun would be a haven for ships, as we in the same verse, in Genesis 49:13. And this prophecy concerning Zebulun could only refer to Zebulun in its places of exile, because in the biblical times it was not pertinent. It was for the future, as Jacob himself, when he gave the blessing, said. And Rotterdam, for a long time, was the most important port in the world, and even now it is the most important port in Europe. Also says that Zebulun was to be a travelling people. Zebulun would go out in the streets of the Dutch. The Dutch were great explorers, seafarers. They had an empire, a great empire, which encompassed every place all over the world. They had Dutch colonies and Dutch outposts, and Dutch ships and so on are very important, and the Dutch are always travellers. And also the Boers in South Africa used to move around, and there were people who were outgoing, travelling, which was a characteristic of Zebulun. It also says that Zebulun would suck of the abundance of the seas. In Deuteronomy 33:19, Zebulun shall suck of the abundance of the seas. And this is what the Dutch do. They have ships, all types of fishing and sea work and seafaring enterprises. They have herring fishing, fishing in general, whaling, harvesting of shrimps, mussels, oysters, trade coming by sea, dredging vessels, making of dikes, canals and ports, all different travelling agents by sea, Dutch merchant fleets, navy wars, shipbuilding, and so on. Much of the wealth of the Dutch in its formative years came from the sea, from sucking of the sea, of the wealth of the sea, the abundance of the sea, as the verse said. And even the country itself comes from the sea. About half the country is below sea level. It also says that Zebulun would suck of the treasures hidden in the sands. In Deuteronomy 33:19, Zebulun shall suck of the treasures hidden in the sands. And the country of Holland itself is based on the sands. It's based on gravel. It's based on it's built out of estuaries, rivers meeting the sea, and the land reclaimed from the sea. And many parts of the Netherlands are huge layers of sand and gravel, as Bert Otten says. And the sand dunes and gravel layers and so on. And this is the source of wealth for the Dutch. They tulips and so on grow from these soils, which are mixed with sand. And the land itself is recovered from the sands, from treasures hidden in the sand. And even now they've discovered oil and gas, which is buried in the sandstone under the sea, off the shores. And this is also a potential source of great wealth for the Dutch people. It also says that Zebulun was to be a compassionate people. This was mentioned in an apocryphic work, the Testament of Zebulun. And the Dutch do have this quality. They are compassionate towards others. They give aid to others. And this is part of their liberal traditions, to help other people, and especially unfortunate, those less fortunate than themselves. Stone of Zebulun was a diamond. It says in Exodus 28:15-18. And Amsterdam was a diamond city for 400 years. And even now, they still are involved with it, though the most important city at present is Antwerp. And also diamonds were found in the republics of South Africa, which was a source of wealth for them. And there too, Dutch people were to settle. Zebulun was to be known for writers and bookkeepers. In the Song of Deborah in the book of Judges 5:14, it says, "Out of Zebulun shall come they that handle the pen of the writers." And Zebulun, this was a characteristic predicted of Zebulun. And Holland, indeed, is traditionally a very literate country, and they are well known for publishing, printing presses. The earliest printing presses came from there. They've always been up at the top of the world scales in this area. Bible societies, foreign language studies, and cartography, publishing, and so on. All of this is forties that the Dutch are known for. Also says that Zebulun was to be associated with Judah. Judah was encamped around the tabernacle together with the tribes of Issachar and Zebulun, which indicates an association, an affinity with Judah, Judah being the Jews. And the Dutch people, ever since they have been independent, which was going back several centuries, they were first ruled by the Spanish, and then they achieved independence. And ever since then, up until the present, they've been tolerant of the Jews. They've helped the Jews. They've taken in Jewish refugees and giving the Jews freedom and the ability to worship as they will. And in return, they have benefited greatly from Jewish presence. And there's a kind of love affair, which, as described by the Israeli PM, Yitzhak Rabin, in a speech which he gave when Queen Beatrix visited the Knesset, he spoke of a love affair between the Dutch and the Jewish people, and this is indeed a reality. So taking all of these points together, both what I said in my article, what Bert Otten said in his article, we get a very strong composite picture that proves, or gives a lot of proof, a lot of very telling indications that the Dutch people are Israelites and that they pertain to the tribe of Zebulun. May the God of Israel bless all of you. Thank you.